Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tamadharme kritamate vilokyate taram sutta mariche mukhyamo nayo vishambhat pratyabodhayan.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thus, finding their father so deluded in an act of immorality, the sages headed by Marichi, all sons of Brahma, spoke as follows with great respect.
Netat urvai kritam tvadye nakarishyanti chapare yastvam duhitaram gacher anigreyangansham prabhom.
O Father, this performance in which you are endeavoring to complicate yourself was never attempted by any other Brahma, nor by anyone else, nor by you in previous kalpas, nor will anyone dare to attempt it in the future. You are the supreme being in the universe, so how is it that you want to have sex with your daughter and cannot control your desires?
Ejiyasam atihetam na sushlokiyam jagadguru yetvritam anutishtam vai lokakshemaya kalpate.
Even though you are the most powerful being, this act does not suit you because your character is followed for spiritual improvement by people in general.
Tasmai namo bhagavate idam svena rochasha atmastham yanjayam asa tadharmam patamarahate.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who, by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness.
Sayedham grinata putram purodrishtva prajapatim prajapati patistanvam yajya vriditas tada tandishaya grihurvaram niharam yati vidotamaham.
The father of all Prajapatis, Brahma, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed and at once gave up the body he had accepted. Later, that body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness.
Tadashidhyayata srashtur vedasam shaturamubhat kadaham sarakshyamyaham lokan samadhyatan yadha puram.
Once upon a time, when Brahma was thinking of how to create the worlds as in the past millennium, the four Vedas, which contain all varieties of knowledge, became manifested from his four mouths.
Shaturohotram karmatantram pavedamaya saha dharmasya padashatvaras tadhaivashrama vrittayaha.
The four kinds of paraphernals for conducting the fire sacrifice became manifest. The performer, the chanter, the offerer, the fire, and the action performed in terms of the supplementary Vedas. Also, the four principles of religiosity, truth, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness, and the duties in the four social orders all became manifest.
Vidurau vacha savai vishvasrijamisho vedadin mukhato srijat yat yana srijat devas tame bruhi tapodhanam.
Vidura said, O great sage, whose only wealth is penance, kindly explain to me how and with whose help Brahma established the Vedic knowledge which emanated from his mouth.
Maitreya Uvacha Rikyajya Samadhara Vakyam Vedan Purvadibhir Mukhay Shasran Ijyam Stute Stomam Prayashchitam Yadhat Kramat.
Sorry, can you scroll up, Mataji? Hello? Maitreya said, beginning from the front face of Brahma, gradually the four Vedas, RK, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samveda, and Atharva Ved, became manifest. Thereafter, Vedic hymns, which had not been pronounced before, priestly rituals, the subject matters of recitation, and transcendental activities were all established one after the other.
Ayurvedam Dhanurvedam Anharvan Vedam Atmana Sthapatyam Sa Sarirjat Vedam Kramat Purvadibhir Mukhay.
He also created the medical science, military art, music art, and architectural science, all from the Vedas. They all emanated one after the another, beginning from the front face.
Itihasa Puranani Panchaman Vedam Ishvara Sarvebhya Eva Vaktrebhya Sasrijya Sarvadarshana.
Then he created the fifth Veda, the Puranas, and the histories from all his mouths, since he could see all the past, present, and future.
Shodashyuktau Purva Vaktrat Parishyagni Tuштовадха Aptoriyamati Ratraucha Madhapeyam Sagosavam.
All the different varieties of fire sacrifices, Sodasi, Ukta, Purisi, and Agnistoma, Aptoryama, Atiratrya, Vajapaya, and Gosava became manifested from the eastern mouth of Brahma.
Vidyadanam Tapasatyam Dharmesyate Padanicha Ashramam Shayadha Sandhyam Asrejatsaha Vretibhi.
Education, charity, penance, and truth are said to be the four legs of religion. And to learn this, there are four orders of life with different classification of castes according to vocation. Brahma created all these in systematic order.
Savitram Prajapatyam Cha Rahmam Chadha Brihatadha Vartasanshaya Shalina Shilonsha Iti Vaigrihe.
Then the thread ceremony for the twice born was inaugurated, as were the rules to be followed for at least 1 year after acceptance of the Vedas, rules for observing complete abstinence from sex life, vocations in terms of Vedic injunctions, various professional duties in household life, and the method of maintaining a livelihood without anyone's cooperation by picking up rejected grains.
Thank you so much for allowing me to serve, and please forgive me for all mistakes made. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare Krishna,
you,
everyone.
Pandava Arjun Prabhu and Falguni Mataji. It was wonderful recitations. So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
You can share your screen, Prabhuji.
Sure. Thank you very much. Mhm. Yes, you can see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. So, let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी यम्प्राव्रजन्तमनुपेतमुपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरक्तातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतयो तरवो विनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं भुविनामोऽस्मि. So we are going to read verse number 31 to 30 to 33. Am I right? 30 to 33, right? Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, 30 to 32. Yeah. So let's start. नेतत्पूर्वैः कृतं त्वद्दे न करिष्यन्ति चापरे यस्त्वं दुहितरं गच्छेर्निगृह्याङ्गजं प्रभुः. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O Father, this performance in which you are endeavoring to complicate yourself was never attempted by any other Brahma, nor by anyone else, nor by you in previous kalpas, nor will anyone dare to attempt it in the future. You are the supreme being in the universe, so how is it that you want to have sex with your daughter and cannot control your desire? So here, Lord Brahma's son Marichi is asking this to his father. So let's read the purport. Purport. The post of Brahma is the supermost post in the universe, and it appears that there are many Brahmas in many universes besides the one in which we are situated. One who fills this post must be ideal in behavior, for Brahma sets the example for all living entities. Brahma, the living entity who is the most pious and spiritually elevated, is entrusted with the post, with a post next to that of the personality of Godhead. Text number 31. तेजीयसामपि ह्येतन्न सुश्लोक्यं जगद्गुरो यद्वृत्तमतिष्ठन् वै लोकः क्षेमाय कल्पते. Even though you're the most powerful being, this act does not suit you because your character is followed for spiritual improvement by people in general. It is said that a supremely powerful living entity can do anything and everything he likes, and such acts do not affect him in any way. For example, the sun in the universe can evaporate water from anywhere and still remain as powerful. The sun evaporates water from filthy places, and yet is not infected with the quality of the filth. This particular quality, in English, the terminology is prophylactic. That if anything comes in touch with something filthy, that gets purified, but the original entity remains clean. So sunlight is called prophylactic. Okay, let's move on. Similarly, Brahma remains unimpeachable in all conditions, but still, since he is the spiritual master of all living entities, his behavior and character should be so ideal that people will follow such sublime behavior and derive the highest spiritual benefit. Therefore, he should not have acted as he did. Text number 32. Tasmai namo bhagavate ya idam swena rocisha atmastham vyanjayamasa sadharmam patumarhati. Translation. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who, by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion in all goodness. Lust for sexual intercourse is so strong that it appears herein that Brahma could not be dissuaded from his determination in spite of the appeal by his great sons like Marichi. Therefore, the great sons began to pray to the Supreme Lord for the good sense of Brahma. It is only by the grace of the Supreme Lord that one can be protected from the allurement of lusty material desires. The Lord gives protection to devotees who are always engaged in His transcendental loving service, and by His causeless mercy, He forgives the accidental fall of a devotee. Therefore, sages like Marichi prayed for the mercy of the Lord, and their prayer was fruitful. Number 33, text number 33. Sa itham granataha putran puro drishtva prajapatin prajapati patis tanvam tatyaja vriditas tada tam disho jagruhur ghoram niharam yadvidustamah. Discussion. The father of all Prajapatis, Brahma, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed and at once gave up the body he had accepted. Later, that body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness. Purport. The best way to compensate for one's sinful acts is to give up one's body at once. And Brahma, the leader of the living entities, showed this by his personal example. Brahma has a fabulous duration of life, but he was obliged to give up his body due to his grievous sin, even though he had merely contemplated it in his mind without having actually done it. This is a lesson for the living entities, showing how sinful an act it is to indulge in unrestricted sex life. Even to think of abominable sex life is sinful, and to compensate for such acts, one has to give up his body. In other words, one's duration of life, blessings, opulence, etc., are decreased by sinful acts, and the most dangerous type of sinful act is unrestricted sex. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, or sinful life is the cause of gross ignorance. The feature of ignorance is darkness or fog. Darkness or fog still covers the whole universe, and the sun is the only counteracting principle. One who takes shelter of the Lord, the perpetual light, has no fear of being annihilated in the darkness of fog or ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So let's go to the first verse, 30th verse. I think we will just go to this chapter and then get the bit of a reference, bit of a background. Okay, let's do our invocation and then we will start. Om Adnyantimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manonishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadameham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam स अद्वैतम स अवधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्ते देवी नमामि हरिप्रिये ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे अजानुलम्बितभुजौ कनकावधातौ सङ्कीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजभरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणावतारौ यन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसूक्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना यंश्च हस्तचरणाश्रवणात् त्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्. So we are going to discuss topic related to the creation and how the lust is a disastrous enemy in this material world. So if we see the text number 26, lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma. Anger from between his eyebrows, greed from between his lips, the power of speaking from his mouth, the ocean from his penis, and low and abominable activities from his anus, the source of all sins. So this whole number 26 gives us an idea that if Lord Brahma has been there with all these creations, that means the portion of that, some ansha, is there in the living entity's heart, in the body. When we receive this body, we get these gifts, whether we want it or not. And then in verse number 28, Maitreya Rishi is saying, we have heard that Brahma had a daughter named Vak, who was born from his body and who attracted his mind towards sex, although she was not sexually inclined towards him. And she was not inclined, and his sons, they realized it because they were all powerful sages, though it was all happening at the mental platform of Lord Brahma. He didn't say anything, but still, his sages, headed by Marichi, all the great sages we have seen earlier, Angira Rishi and Narad Muni and everyone. So here, Marichi Rishi, he understands that, and with great respect towards his father, that's where this verse number 30 starts. So let me switch on the light quickly. It's a little bit dark. Give me just a few seconds. Yeah. So now, 4 regulative principles, which are in our sampradaya, or which is there in the Vedic literature. This gambling is called dhyutam, illicit sex is called strigamanam, then what do you call, intoxication is called mada, because that gives the illusion, and mamsahara, which is meat eating. So no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. What does this give us? What does that bring us to? Why Srila Prabhupada has brought that particular aspect of no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. So those are basically the 4 qualities we are all supposed to follow. We are supposed to have embedded in us: the truthfulness, cleanliness, being compassionate, or being merciful, and being honest, and all the qualities, they come with this by fall. We become we become conscious of the qualities which are in mode of goodness because of the following of these four regulative principles. So Srila Prabhupada was always said that I want the people who are going to join this movement first to be civilized. So that is why if you hear any room conversation, even if you hear any lecture of Srila Prabhupada, very frequently he emphasizes on these four regulative principles. Why? So the people first, they will come to the platform of civilization, civilized people. Second platform is being cultured, understand the Sanskriti of what is given, what are the instructions of a good, harmonious society. So that's the second aspect. And in the good, harmonious society, the very important point is to refrain from unrestricted sex, unrestricted lusty activities. And that is the second aspect, which is the next stage of being cultured. The third one comes to the point of moral platform. Moral platform is not only the lusty desires, not only the sexual activities, but overall being respectful towards the relationship, being respectful towards each other, and being respectful towards the privacy, and so many things comes in at the moral platform. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that as a Niti Shastra. Before that, Samskriti, Sanskrit society, Samaj. Okay. And then comes the next platform, which is following the scriptures, which is Dharma Shastra, being religious. Religion is the regulation, because even if the person has their own idea of, or the group has their own idea of what is cultured, what is moral platform, and how to be civilized, but at the same time, people can have their conveniently created different rules or laws, and that can be, as we all know nowadays, if we read the constitution of various countries, we will see quite a few contradictions sometimes. One thing is allowed here, second thing is not allowed, and so on. Why? That's because human beings are trying to set up the rules of civilization, culture, moral code of conduct with their own concoctive ideas. And that is why in certain countries, the prostitution is legal. There are laws of that and how it should be and all that. And that contributes to their GDP, their economy, which is very abominable. You can imagine how horrible the situation must be there, that the young girl of a family is involved in this disgusting, nefarious activities. And so are the people in the surrounding. We don't have to get into the details of how it happens, where it happens, and all the logistics behind it. But that's what currently it is happening in some parts of the world. Now, then comes, and that's the reason it comes the religious code of conduct. Now, again, as per the time, place, and circumstances, as per the requirements of the society, there are different versions of religious code of conduct. And some people will say that my religion is better than yours because that is just that is the sign of the weakest faith. When someone says that my religion is better than yours, or whatever, something similar type of arguments, it is the sign of a weak faith. Because why do you need that acknowledgement from someone else that what I am doing is better? It's not necessary. The whole point here is that if it is coming through the lineage, if it is coming from the Shastra, and if we know what is going to be the result of it, because you have seen the result uh, in our sampradaya, people followed these regulative principles, people followed this path of devotional service, and what they achieved, where they reached. If a wise person understands this, and he doesn't need any acknowledgement. That person need not have to see that someone else has to be like me. It's the religious code of conduct need not have to be compulsory on someone. It need not have to be a compulsion. And that is why when there is a compulsion, then the mind starts revolting. And then there will be illicit sex and gambling and everything will be there. As we see in the 28th verse here, or before that, in 27th actually, 26th, everything here is there in the material world because there is a desire from the living entity to perform certain activities which are out of the boundaries of the religion or the codes of conduct. And that is why there is a creation like this. Lust is created, and anger is created, greed is created. So these are all basically what Lord Brahma is creating here is the concept. It is getting introduced in this material world. And then by setting his own example, how that when the lust is appeared in his heart, and then he says, oh, okay, he's lustfully attracted to his own daughter, which he created. And then Marichi Sage Marichi is saying, oh, how can that be? This is something which we don't approve. And then Lord Brahma, ashamed of his own thought process. Now, can you imagine that this is just came in the thought it was a thought process of Lord Brahma, and then he was ashamed, and then he gave up his body. What does this indicate? What does this tell us? That this says that how currently the code of conduct in this material world should be. If someone is committing all sinful, abominable activities, that person should have very stringent punishment. This whole drama of human rights and this and that and all, that dilutes the principle of atonement. And when that gets diluted, the suffering gets longer. And when the suffering becomes longer than what it should be, there will be more and more and more criminal activities, because the mind which is very fickle, very flickering, will always try to escape and try to do more, to perform these certain sinful activities, to extract more and more pleasure from this material world. And that's what we can learn from these verses here. So what is when something like this happens, when the mentally person gets bewildered, gets very sinful thoughts, immediately there is a solution given here in the text number 32. Marichi, sage Marichi says, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, unto the personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness. So this religious code of conduct. May he also protect religion for all goodness, because religious code of conduct is higher than moral code of conduct. So that's what. Let's drill it down a little further. Who is Lord Brahma? He's the leader. in this material world. And everyone wants to have a good leader, very powerful leader. But in the currently in the material world, as we can see, are there any leaders who are completely self-reliant? No, they're not. Some leaders may project themselves as self-reliant, as somebody supreme or very powerful, but that is all illusion, because that leader, what internally that leader knows, this is all temporary. There is only one leader who can guide us, and that is the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. And that is why Sage Marichi is saying here, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead. Why? Because he will give the direction. In Varnashram Dharma, if we see people, how that was organized in earlier times, how the perfect monarchy was. Let's get some insight of that. For example, just try to imagine there was a kingdom, and that kingdom was run properly. All the code of conduct were organized properly. So the reason behind that is it is all governed, the laws are set, the what do you call it? The advisory council to the king is the qualified Brahmanas. So who are all those Brahmanas? Brahman in that kingdom, those who always lived very frugal, very simple life, lived in a hermitage outside the kingdom in a very simple setup. They had their own gurukul, and those all Brahman personalities were just doing the role, displaying the role of giving the education and advising and being an advisor to the king and performing the worship of that of the deity in the temple of that kingdom. So what is that temple of the kingdom? So king was always been told since the childhood, when the king is the prince is born, as he starts understanding that this kingdom belongs to that presiding deity of the kingdom. Then, who are the worshippers of that deity? All the Brahmins. Those Brahmins are learned scholars. They are realized personalities. They have tremendous mystic powers, a lot of things, as we have seen. Even the not fully qualified Brahmin like Shringi, he could curse Parikshit Maharaj. So you can imagine earlier how powerful those Brahmins were. Now, they were governing indirectly by advising to the king that this is how the code of conduct to rule the kingdom should be. Now, the king knows that this is all temporary. I'm not going to be on this throne for long. I'm just a caretaker who is wearing very opulent clothes and eating very rich diet and having a very beautiful wife and women around and so on and so forth. But that king knows when the time comes, when he gets advised by the higher advisory council, and when his son is good enough to take over the kingdom, the king was supposed to leave, take Vanaprastha ashram, and then go to the forest. And that's it. That king is no longer the king, and he has relinquished, he has just given up everything, and then he is retired. So that king is aware of it, the temporariness of that quote unquote opulence. Now, the first two classes in Varnashram Dharma, in the Varnashram system, Brahman and Kshatriya, are capable of taking their own decisions. They could take their own decisions, but fitting in the scriptural framework, fitting in the religious code of conduct in that framework. Then what happens? Of course, they know that power comes with a lot of responsibility. And they know that we are the leaders. The society is following our example. Yad yat acharati shrestha. So they are not hypocrites. There is honesty. If that kind of kingdom is there, um, they are setting a good example of how the leader should be. And the successors of the king and the Brahmanas, they will have this similar type of cultural setup. It may not be exactly the same because we all are different in terms of our personalities. So these personalities, now coming back to today's point, why we are discussing this particular aspect is because these Kshatriyas and Brahmanas who are basically directing the third and the fourth class, Vaishyas and Shudras, and setting an example, they are fully aware that lust is not just related to the sexual attraction between a man and woman. It is a very deep-rooted aspect. It's a deep-rooted quality at a subtle level of what? Profit, adoration, and distinction. And what is the root cause of profit? Trying to extract some profit, trying to get some adoration from everyone, that everyone is saying you're so wonderful, you're so great. And then distinction, I'm somebody special, so I'm very separate from others, and I'm unique. The whole point is person is trying to be a controller, trying to be his own little Brahma, or trying to be some kind of God type of mentality people have deep rooted in the heart in this material world. And what is the root cause of that? Envy. It's the deadly enemy of humans called envy. And that is the main reason behind it. And this is the learning lesson for all of us from these verses, that if we work on that envy in our heart, whomever is in this material world, most of the conditioned souls, they have certain degree of envy, trying to control the situation, trying to control the people, trying to control something is also a type of sign of envy, because the person thinks that I am somebody who is superior. I'm somebody who can take the position of God. And that's the reason there is a tendency to control. And then obviously what comes with that is pride. When there is pride, there is envy. Because pride and envy, they are the two sides of the same coin. So that's what the scriptures are telling us. So let's get to our law book, Bhagavad Gita, and where the envy part, where the lust is described by the Supreme Lord. So 2.62, the famous verse, Dhyato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Prajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. Kama means lust. So while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So, who would like to read the purport? Because this is very, very important purport. Srila Prabhupada has given a very powerful insight in this purport. Any volunteers?
I can, Prabhuji.
Yes, Nataji, please do.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above-mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So, it's very much in relevance to what today's set of verses we are discussing. And this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the clear answer to it, that on our own, living entities, all our tiny little people in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, Kali Yuga, we are not capable of handling our own sense desires and agitations for sense pleasure. Now, this means that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are not under the, they are not being here under the influence of the material nature or its influence of the lusty desires. This is for us to understand by an example. So if such a great, powerful personalities can get allured and deluded by this idea of lusty sense gratification, then if someone among us is thinking that I can control myself, good luck. Definitely, it's not going to work. Haridas Thakur here, when Mataji was reading just now, this, who is Haridas Thakur? He's Lord Brahma himself. He has gone through the test and he knows what is this allurement by the incarnation of Maya Devi. And he could refrain because he's aware of it, because he knows what he was doing, what shelter he took is the chanting of the holy name, Yuga Dharma, and his level of surrender to Lord Krishna. And that's why he could conquer over this lusty desires in the mind. And that's the great example we just saw. In chapter 3, these are the verses where Arjuna asks Bhagwan, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Most of the times, many people have this question. I did not want to do something, but it happened. Yes, I don't know what happened, but yes. And when we commit that activity, sinful or some unwanted activity, and still when it happens, we realize I was not supposed to do that, but it happened. And then Krishna is now explaining what is the reason behind it. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is all devouring sinful enemy of this world. And then he says, as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. So everyone in the material world has this in different degrees, with different colors, with different forms. Sometimes it is presented in such a way that people think, wow, that's amazing. It's a very strange type of glorification of that person's lust. But we can see that through the Shastra Chakshu, through the scriptures of the eyes, that this lust is the devouring enemy. And then Lord says, thus the wise living entities, pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied, and which burns like fire. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So, very, very important points here, are essential learning lessons for all of us, every one of us in this material world. That what is the root cause of many sinful activities, and this whole illusory ideas of me, I, me, my mind, myself, my nation, my body, my wife, my family, my this, my that. This is all because of this enemy called lust. In chapter 7, again, Krishna tells the important lesson here. He says, O son of Pratha, know that I am the original seed of all existences. So we are not the creators. Why there is a lust? The reason is we think that I am the creator. I am giving something, and that's how I am creating something. But that itself is an illusion. Lord says in this 10th verse, he is the seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. So, yes, Bijamam Sarvabhutanam Vidhi Parthi Sanatanam Buddhir Matam Asmi Tejas Aham. So, very beautiful verse. And then he says, I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of Bharatas, since we have got the senses, we have to use it for the right cause, and that's what the answer is. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principle. That means for the procreation. As per the scriptural injunctions given by the Lord Himself. So that's what the answer is. So I think that's what I thought of discussing about it. Are there any additions, any comments, any reflections anyone has? Yes, Madhuri.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhuji, I may not have understood something, but just now when you read, or the bit where about Haridas Thakur, he did not give in to lust because of his unalloyed devotion, or whatever you call it, to the Lord. But then you said that he is also a reincarnation of Brahma. But then in this chapter, Brahma gives in, almost had the lust, or nothing happened, but he had the lusty desires, didn't he? So I'm just trying to think that in reincarnation, he tried to control, or he was controlled, and in this one, he wasn't.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So, good question. Thank you for raising that. What we see here is Lord Brahma he's creating everything, all his glorious sons and he wants to increase the population of this world because that's what the responsibility given to him by the Lord. And as a Jivatma, why that responsibility is given to him? Because every Jivatma has certain desires in the material world. And Lord fulfills that desire according to what you deserve and what you desire. So Lord Brahma has this desire, and he is doing it in his capacity of Lord Brahma. So naturally, that desire is being manifested in different ways here. And in this particular case, Lord Brahma, when he saw his own daughter, Vak, he had a desire of this procreation, having a sexual intercourse with her. And that is an abominable activity. Now, he understands, before he realizes his sons, who are exalted personalities, they are telling him that this is not right, this is wrong. And that's where Lord Brahma realizes that, yes, he's ashamed of himself. It was all in his manas, it was all in his mind. He did not perform any abominable activity. Then he has given up his body and he receives the new body because his work is not complete. Now, with this new body, what Lord Brahma has received does not have that tinge of any sinful activity, of the desire for any sinful activity, like the one we saw earlier in verse number 27. 26. Here it is. Yeah. Sorry, 26 is the creation, and 28 is where he had that desire. So Haridas Thakur is now, the time has passed. Haridas Thakur was, Srila Haridas Thakur Namacharya was here 500 years back. Now this is long back, during the creation of this material world. There is a difference in that. But after this, then many leelas have happened. Brahma Vimohan Leela, and so many leelas have happened. Brahma has learned a lot of things. He has performed the prayers, Brahma Samhita, and several other prayers to Krishna himself. He knows who his father is. And in this, you can see that Marichi is saying, let's pray to our grandfather, to Supreme Lord. And then, so now you can see that Lord Brahma doesn't want to get into any kind of such sinful activities. And in this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, he is Haridas Thakur. And that is why he has refrained himself from any of the allurement by taking the shelter of the Supreme Lord by chanting his holy name, which is Yuga Dharma. Mataji, does it make sense now?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes. I was just trying to think, why could he not control in this chapter, and then that's all I was getting to. Yeah, but thank you.
But this is a lot later.
It's
yes, 500
thank
years
you.
back.
Yes.
Even in our terms, we can imagine a little bit, but in this case, it's beyond our imagination. That's what at least mine means. Is there any other question or comment? Not.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for nicely explaining. You mentioned that lust is there. The people like the power of controlling. It exists everywhere, even in the community of devotees. It exists.
Yes.
That is there. Yeah. I have this power. I can control this. I can decide who is going to say what, who is going to do what. The power also is there with some of the devotees. So yes, and then coming back to Brahma's to his pastime, to his Leela, is, the Lord uses, yesterday also I think I said the same thing, the Lord uses his own devotees, his pure devotees, just to give us examples. Like this in the Kali Yuga, what Brahma was thinking, like I don't know how many ages back. Nowadays it's happening, right? And whatever Indra does, stealing the horses for the yajna, and then associating with Gautam Muni's wife, and all these things, whatever. But the Lord uses them just to show us this is good, you should do. This is bad, you should not do. Right? Like Dhruv Maharaj, Brihad Maharaj, these are good examples. Narad Muni is good example, but bad example we don't know. So this is bad, we should not be doing it, and those are good, we should pick the good one and practice in our life. And we see nowadays all these things are happening, like what Brahma did, sorry, what Narad did, what Indra did, it's happening in life. So it's up to us now to pick the good one. And not everybody has knowledge until and unless we read the Shastras, we associate with devotees, and we get spiritual master to guide us. We will not know. We will not be in this platform and discussing about it. So this is the Lord's Leela as well. He uses his own devotee to give us these examples.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we read Bhagavad Gita, Arjun is if you read about Arjun in Mahabharata, his personality, his character, how powerful, amazing personality Arjun is, and what a refined consciousness Arjun has all the time. When he went to Swargalok, when Urvashi was trying to entice him, his consciousness is fixed. He says, Indradev is my father, and you are approaching me with your lusty desires. I can't fulfill that because you're like my mother. That kind of refined consciousness Arjun has. And still Arjun has to go through all this ordeal. And so what that, as Indulekha Mataji very rightly said, that being a devotee of the Lord that doesn't mean everything will be materially, things will be very happy and wonderful, but it is a way Lord's design that he wants to glorify his devotees. He wants to set an example, because to set an example, the devotee should be qualified enough, should be capable enough. It's like to fight with the Lord, the person should be capable enough. Jaya and Vijay, his doorkeepers of his very wonderful devotees, they're incredibly powerful personalities. They only can understand how they can have that Veera Rasa, the chivalry with the Lord himself. Any common so-called brave person in the material world, there is no way that they can have that kind of fight with the Lord. So, very important point. Thank you very much. So, no more questions. If not, then we will stop here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
everyone.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jyotinatha ji.